Okay. All right, I'll check. Still good? Good. Before we move on from the values of our school, I thought this would be a great opportunity. I thought this would be a great opportunity to review the school's list of how we actually live our values. This is a list that was created by the board in combination or collaboration with administration a few years ago. It has been shared with staff, it's been shared with parents, but I don't think it really gets enough airtime. So I thought we could go through this real quick and I'll read it to you. For curiosity, how do we live that? We assume positive intent and are curious about people's perspectives. We ask questions to understand. We are open to new ideas and responsibilities and actively work to improve ourselves. We take time to make complex decisions and acknowledge that others do as well. We listen with an open mind and are willing to change our opinions. For kindness, we acknowledge that expressions of kindness to others start with ourselves, so we are kind to ourselves and support and encourage each other in this. We believe kindness is something we learn and practice, a place where we grow. We own our mistakes or role in conflict, and we make amends. We remind each other that kindness is a strength, not a weakness. We talk to people, not about people. We consistently and publicly recognize others who have shown kindness to us or to others. For the value of challenge and support, we ask for help when needed and support others when they ask us. We propose solutions to issues that we identify. We have difficult conversations with candor and compassion. We work within our organization to address challenges and positively support the school externally. We provide opportunities for development and growth by removing obstacles to innovation. For the value of community, we are self-reflective and growth-minded and respect others and listen to our inner selves. We take full advantage of feedback culture by giving and receiving in service of development through staff surveys, community surveys, employee reviews, and organization health reviews. We encourage veteran employees to mentor new and international staff, and we welcome new viewpoints and innovative perspectives. We greet people with their preferred name and pronouns. We encourage gatherings in and outside of TCGIS. We welcome social initiatives by students, staff, administration, PTO, and the board. We initiate regular in-person events, both large and small, to truly get to know one another and build student, family, and community connections, especially since our community represents many geographic areas of the Twin Cities. And finally, our last value, intercultural engagement. We embrace German as our brand and the German language as a tool to raise awareness and interest in our school and in the German language and contemporary culture within the larger community. We embrace learners of German at all levels and seek to optimize opportunities for immersion and connection. We build partnerships with German language educational and cultural organizations in the Twin Cities and international cultural organizations in German-speaking world and to build multicultural relationships. We build multicultural relationships with educational and cultural institutions to hear other stories and share our stories in return. We recognize our diversity as a strength and an asset and actively work to diversify our community. As members of the TCJS community, we all have the capacity and responsibility to continue listening, learning, and contributing to the richness and complexity of our multicultural community. All right, thank you for indulging me in that. I'll continue with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge and appreciate that TCGIS is located on Wapekute Dakota traditional, ancestral, and contemporary homeland near Lake Minnewaca in the land now known as Minnesota, Minnesota-Makoche. Our presence here is linked to generations of Wapekute stewardship over their land, as well as to the historical and ongoing injustices of settler colonization that impact Indigenous people to the present day. We are committed to understanding our role in this legacy and to educating ourselves and our community about Indigenous history through continued mindfulness and engagement in and outside of the classroom. All right, let's take the roll for the record. Director Albers.
Here.
Director Elkatut here. Director Eberhard.
Here.
Director Hartman.
Here.
Director Hyde.
Here.
Director Krutzinga.
Here.
Director Reich.
Here.
Director Smaka is absent. Director Tesfayesus is absent, but we do expect him tonight. Director Yamaniab is absent. An ex officio member, Executive Director Klinzing.
Here.
Thank you, we have a quorum. All right, let's move over to the agenda. Could I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Director Hyde. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Hartman. Any discussion on today's agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries and the agenda is approved. All right. Next is the Executive Director hiring process. So we have our process that we shared in the board packet. And I've prepared some background information to share with the community so that everybody has the same information as the board. And so that all board members have the same information as well. So some background to our Executive Director succession planning. First, I'd like to highlight an excerpt from our TCJS Strategic Plan Revision 2025. TCJS will cultivate internal talent and create opportunities for development and advancement within the school. That was part of our vision under school culture. I'd like to clarify what an executive director is. There seems to be a little misunderstanding, or it's not always clear what an executive director is in comparison to a principal. A charter school's executive director is primarily responsible for all aspects of the organization's management and administration. Minnesota charter schools are both nonprofit organizations and independent school districts. The executive director has responsibilities similar to that of a nonprofit organization's executive director, in combination with a traditional school's principal. Minnesota charter school leaders are less like traditional superintendents who oversee multiple schools and oversee district operations. Minnesota's charter school law does not require those in administrative leadership or supervisory positions in charter schools to be licensed. According to the Minnesota Association of Charter Schools Leadership Report, majority of charter school leaders, 61%, do hold a valid Minnesota school administrative license. At TCGIS, the academic team consists of 2 licensed K-12 principals. Elizabeth Senfennig serving as principal and Catherine Radke serving as Dean of Students. Andrew Haugen holds a Tier 4 teaching license for developmental disabilities, and he serves as the special education supervisor. Esther Noy holds a Tier 4 teaching license for German and communication, art, and literature, and serves as the Director of Academic Support. Or is there a new title?
She's the Dean of Academic Support now, and I'm proposing a new
Okay.
title.
Okay. Dean of Academic Support.
I would also add that Andrew is almost at a K-12 principal license.
Oh, nice.
We'll be finishing up this summer.
Good for him. The Max Charter School Leadership Report provides insight into a typical work week for a charter school executive director. And reading it myself, I found this very insightful. Charter school directors are asked to, for this report, they were asked to estimate the percentage of time that they spent on the following activities during a typical week, and the report showed the variety of duties that charter school leaders have. Financial and organization management were reported as approximately 1/3 of the time spent, with each of those being 15%. A quarter of the time was typically spent on human resources and staff, student, family politics. The remainder time was approximately 10% toward instructional leadership, 8% towards public relations, 8% towards promoting school culture, 7% toward board relations, and 5% toward authorizer relations. And I can share my screen here. So of course I put it in a graph because I like to see things visually. But the financial management is 15%, organizational management, another 15%. And so you can see the week is quite diverse as far as how executive directors spend their time. Is there any discussion on this or comments? The Max report further explains that while charter school directors recognize that they are primarily responsible for all aspects of the organization's management and administration, they understand that no one person can do it all. They also understand that everyone that is part of the school community, administrative support staff, teachers, board members, and volunteers, has a role in the management and administration of the school. Together, the charter school director and administrative support personnel have the largest roles and greatest responsibilities in the management and administration of the school. Teachers have significant responsibilities in promoting school culture, instructional leadership, staff, student, family politics, and strategic planning. Board of Directors has significant responsibilities surrounding strategic planning, financial management, board relations, and authorizer relations. Volunteers are reported to be involved in promoting school culture and public relations, with minimal or no involvement in other responsibilities and duties. The report shares how current charter school directors learned about their position. And the Max report indicates that the most common source of Minnesota charter school leaders is the internal school staff. According to the Max Charter School report, 41% of current Minnesota charter school leaders worked in the school when the position became available. Only 3% of Minnesota charter school leaders report being contacted by a recruiter to learn about the position, and 27% read a classified advertisement. I'd also like to share information about salaries. The average salary for a full-time charter school director was reported to be $108,362, with quite a wide range, ranging from $52,500 to $200,000. The average charter school enrollment is reported to be approximately 380 students. Roughly 1 out of every 5 charter schools have enrollment of 100 students or less. Roughly 2 of 5 have enrollments of 150 students or less. With charter school leader salaries largely tied to the size of the school, which is defined by student enrollment, and given the data we just reviewed, the approximate market value of the TCJS executive director position is $166,000, with the average TCJS enrollment of 585 over the past 5 years. Are there any questions or comments about that?
Yeah, double check your math.
Do it.
That's statewide too, right? So that includes all rural districts, not just metro schools.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm really surprised that 40% of charter schools only have 150 students.
Well, we started at 40. All right, I wanted to review some of the historical searches that have been conducted at TCJS. In 2021, TCJS conducted a search for the next executive director in collaboration with School Exec Connect, which is a search firm. After an extensive search, 4 candidates were presented to the board for consideration. The hiring committee interviewed all 4 candidates and narrowed the selection to 2 candidates, Elizabeth Zenfenig and Kirsten Christensen. These 2 candidates continued with public in-person interviews, and the staff council, parent council, student council, administrative staff, and the board of directors interviewed both of them. Kirsten Christensen was selected as the executive director and signed a 4-year contract for $125,000 annual salary for year 1 and year 2. Moving expenses up to $20,000 were included in the offer. The school paid School Exec Connect $13,500 plus advertising and other expenses. 4 other search firms were considered at the time, with services ranging from $25,000 to $40,000, and 2 reported no availability to conduct our search. In 2023, the need arose for an interim executive director, and the school published a request for proposals from executive search firms. One firm that specializes in interim leadership searches gave a proposal of $11,500. And Charter Source offered to manage the process for $33,000. The board enlisted the services of School Exec Connect based on their guarantee for a 2-year duration of their candidate. While they met the 2-year guarantee, they agreed to conduct our search for an interim leader at no charge. Sharing my screen again. So in this table, which is cut off, but we'll start here, showing the search firms that we contacted in January of 2021. Rizzo Executive Search offered a full search for $40,000. Ash Talent Solutions offered to do it for 20% of the candidate's annual compensation in year 1. We talked with Ballinger Leafblad and Cohen Taylor, but they both reported no availability to help us. and School Exec Connect, of course, and that's who we went with the 13,500. For the interim search that we conducted most recently a year ago, Mighty Consulting offered to do a search for an interim for $175 per hour with approximate max amount of $11,500. I mentioned CharterSource offered a project management service, but this isn't including active outreach and recruiting. That was for $33,750. As I mentioned, we convinced School Exec Connect to do our search, and I've shown here what they agreed to do: post a position on their consultant's website. They accepted applications for the position. They vetted the candidates for the position. And if we wanted to do additional marketing, that would have been more. So that was June of 2023. Any questions on the search firms and prices? Okay. All right, as everyone knows, due to the sudden and immediate need to cover the executive director responsibilities for the end of the school year and over the summer, in June, the TCJS board contracted with CharterSource for a part-time experienced executive director, Karen Klinzing. Meanwhile, School Exec Connect searched for an interim director for the 23-24 school year. This search also resulted in 4 applications. Per Minnesota law, identifiable information for candidates is private data until the board agrees to interview the candidate. So I have the general information that can be shared. In this table. So the 4 candidates that were presented to the hiring committee in the summer, 3 of them were local. 1 was from the East Coast. One's current position was Director of Special Education with 0 years of similar experience. One was currently the interim executive director, had 2 years of experience. One was an executive director with 1 year of experience, and one was a superintendent who had 16 years of experience. So after considering the candidates found through that search process in August, the TCJS hiring committee made the recommendation to hire Karen Klinzing as the interim executive director for the 23-24 school year, with the intention to continue a search for a permanent school leader. At the end of October, the hiring committee recommended that the TCJS Board of Directors offer then interim executive director Karen Klinzing a contract through the 25-26 school year with the option to renew. That recommendation was based on the positive impact Karen Klinzing's leadership already had on the school's operational effectiveness, culture, and strategic initiatives since joining the school in June. Director Klinzing signed a contract to serve as executive director on a part-time, 0.5 full-time employees capacity with approximately half-time remote work through the 25-26 school year with a first-year salary of $100,000. That brings us to today. The school finds itself in another leadership transition with Karen Klinzing's resignation effective June 30th, 2024, to pursue an opportunity to lead Hiawatha Academies, which she describes as her dream job in the service of preparing students to become first-generation college students. The position at Hiawatha is a full-time position with remote work available and an annual salary of $220,000. Karen provided her verbal notice of resignation to the board's executive committee on April 1st, and she advocated for Principal Zen Penig to be considered for the next executive director. The school closed for spring break the week of April 8th and was back in session on April 15th. Director Klinzing provided a written letter of recommendation for Principal Zen Penig on April 21st. With this succession plan recommendation, the school communicated the news of Director Klinzing's resignation and the possibility of promoting Principal Zen Penig to the ED position on April 24th. The board had the opportunity to discuss the executive director job description during the committee of the whole meeting on May 9th and asked for parent, student, and staff council feedback on the job description on May 14th. Feedback was received from the three councils by May 22nd. Feedback was also provided on the hiring process from the parent and staff councils with the request for an external search. The board has taken feedback on the job description into consideration and approved an updated version at the May 28th, yesterday's meeting. In closed session last night, the board reviewed Principal Zen Penig's performance reviews and collected performance feedback from board members. Tonight's board meeting is intended to determine whether to extend an offer to Principal Zen Penig or to take another path forward to cover executive director responsibilities starting July 1st, 2024. The board's decision will need to fit within the budget for both the last month of the current school year and the school year 24-25 budget. We note that there are no funds available before the end of June to hire a search firm. Funds would need to be allocated in the 24-25 budget, and programmatic or staffing reductions would need to be made to accommodate the cost of a search. The organizational structure also needs to be taken into consideration and the impact these changes will have on the budget. We have $100,000 of the current executive director's part-time salary to work with. As I mentioned earlier, the market value for an executive director of a charter school our size is approximately $166,000. The succession plan as proposed by Director Klinzing would promote Principal Zen Penig to executive director / principal and would promote Catherine Radicke to assistant principal. The Dean of Students position would be open and would provide an opportunity for a current teacher to move into an administrative role. This plan would be affordable within the current administrative budget. An external search could be conducted by volunteers with the cost limited to advertising fees and travel expenses of potential candidates. Preferably, the search would be conducted by a professional search firm with a potential cost ranging from $20,000 to $50,000. A non-local candidate would likely expect the school to pay moving expenses, likely up to $20,000. To attract qualified external candidates, the school would need to meet market value salary expectations of approximately $166,000. Some feedback has come back wondering if we can hire another part-time executive director. Director Klinzing routinely worked more than her allocated half-time commitment. Executive directors report working on average 56 hours per week, according to the Max Leadership Report. The position requires significant hours of work outside the regular school hours, including many evenings and weekends. Success with a part-time director requires extensive experience, such as that of Karen Klinzing, in combination with a very engaged board of directors offering significant volunteer time. The school continues to have the goal to decrease the amount of time commitments of the board's volunteer directors to make the role more sustainable and attractive to future board members. A part-time executive director is not viewed as a realistic path forward. Principal Zen Penig's years of experience in school leadership is commensurate with what is reported in the Max report, with 43% of school leaders having 1 to 4 years of experience at their current school. After 1 more year, Principal Zenfenig will be in the 5 to 10 year category, along with 35% of directors who have that experience at any school and 24% who have that experience at their current school. The board has reviewed the performance feedback on file at TCGIS for Elizabeth Zenfenig. The reviews highlight her many accomplishments in her administrative roles at TCGIS. Areas of opportunity for growth were reviewed and discussed, along with ideas for a professional development plan going forward. Karen Klinzing is willing to continue mentoring her as well. For the month of June, we have the opportunity to have Karen Klinzing train Elizabeth Zenfenig on the systems and responsibilities that are unique to the executive director role. A timely decision would maximize the impact of this training period by providing clarity on the plans for school year 24-25 leadership. The executive committee has met and discussed all of this information, and we were able to connect with Abner today as well, even though he's traveling for work, and he's in agreement as well. The recommendation from the executive committee is to offer Elizabeth Zenfenig a 1-year contract as executive director starting July 1st, 2024. This would give the board the opportunity to assess the need for an external search in January 2025 after the board's mid-year review of the executive director. We note that January is a much better timeframe to search for academic people. Right now, the pickings would be minimal. All right. Discussion, questions, other feedback or thoughts? And regarding the process, I'm wondering if there's any additional information or steps that board members would recommend taking as part of the process.
There are only assumptions in there about conducting a search through an external search firm right now. We have not gone out and asked for any proposals or anything at this point, have we?
Not
No,
this
but we've
year.
done it twice in the last 3 years.
I know, I understand this, but
So
We haven't gone out to
it's
the
more
market.
than an assumption.
we haven't gone out to the market currently.
Yes, but it's more than an assumption.
Just in the last year, 2 that were not noted, I don't believe, were the people that, do we know the ones that were not able to do it last year as well?
No,
That was, but we reapproached Ballinger Lipa last year as well as Colin Taylor, and
Oh.
they were also unable to,
They're also been unable to.
no availability. Yeah. So,
I think they would be more in the $60,000 range too.
right, and they were,
If they were available.
Yeah. Is there additional information or steps in the process that people would like?
What process do you mean specifically?
So the process that we have in the board packet where we've reviewed the job description, gathered feedback on it, made changes, reviewed her performance feedback, and have the executive committee make a recommendation for the board to consider at this meeting.
So yesterday when we discussed the performance, there were a lot of positives and also some negatives. And we, I think you took notes on like a potential plan to, to work on these things.
Mhm.
Would that be something would we can openly disclose here, or would be not? Okay.
No, performance feedback is private data.
Well, the
But
performance feedback goes back to the current position. I'm talking about the prerequisites or whatever needs to be done, the performance to be worked on, or what needs to be done in the future to
Mhm.
fulfill this position.
Are you talking about the development plan?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned that would be part of the
Mhm.
1-year recommendation.
That'd be the board oversight.
Say again?
It'd be the board's oversight and evaluation of the executive director.
So if you remember a couple of months ago, or we approved a development plan for Director Klinzing. Her license is currently not valid, so she requires a development plan. With a licensed administrator, it's not required. However, there is new legislation that talks about, ongoing education for administrators, which looked really great, actually. But yes, we would want to publicly approve a development plan as best practice.
Mhm.
And we would also publicly approve her objectives.
Okay.
Objectives would be based on our strategic plan and what needs to be done.
And reviews typically take place mid-year and year-end. There's 2 reviews.
Yep. There's a whole policy on how we do our review, and that was just updated and approved a couple months ago as well.
And just to be clear, we're considering right now the executive committee's recommendation as to Principal Zanfenig, not further discussion about the additional pieces of the succession plan, right?
Although I think Principal Zanfenig is prepared to present an organizational chart, if that would help be a piece of the puzzle. You want to present that?
Yeah, if it's helpful. Emily, I sent you a corrected version. I fixed the 2 typos.
Is this the corrected, the new
The
org
new
chart
one,
or the old org chart?
the one that came today.
Yeah, I know. Is that the proposed new org chart?
I'm calling this one the focused org chart because it's just the academic side blown up. So I already created an org chart which has the director of operations and the entire operational side, which isn't changing. And then this is the academic side. And I'm referring to this as the academic cabinet. And the orange pieces are representing our mission. So we've got innovative education of the whole child through German immersion. What might be difficult to see in the littler print from the back row is that the positions are labeled underneath the orange parts. So under whole child, thank you, Emily. Under whole child, it says assistant principal. And I came up with just 3 key responsibilities. There are many responsibilities that an assistant principal would have. You can see that they are student programming, so things like field trips, us working with advisories, and behavior. So creating the entire behavior management plan, creating the referrals, creating the discipline structures, things like that. SEL curriculum and any diversity, belonging, equity, and inclusion work. Helping me to manage the teachers and do the teacher evaluation, and managing the social, emotional, behavioral team. Special education is not changing a whole lot. You can see there that the lead special education coordinator, which is Andrew Hogan, is still just continuing to manage the SPED part. The innovative education, Emily, if you can go down to that one, is the Dean of Data and Compliance. It's a new title that I'd like to use for Esther to take into consideration how we're rounding her out. Emily talked around, Julie talked about growing our own and encouraging growth in our organization. And so someone I've seen grow a lot and I'd like to grow a lot more is Esther Noy. She has an incredible mind that functions very differently than mine. And together, I am the activator and she's the doer. And so she would have the curriculum for K-8 and the curriculum advisory committee, world's best workforce, things like that. She'd be our literacy lead. The READ Act requires that our school have a literacy lead. And so she's gonna do the letters training, the administrative version, and she'd continue to maintain all the data and compliance. Together, she and I would do the title grants, the ADSYS grant, and do that call that the big MD paperwork. And then the new position that I've created, which I believe would be a TOSA position. I love the idea of promoting from within. Somebody gave me, a Tier 4 licensed teacher, a chance at administration, talk about on-the-job training, also drinking from a fire hose that year of COVID. I believe that we've got some people on staff that would really be able to grow into this position. I would call this the Dean of Student Support. It's slightly different than a Dean of Students. And I view it as anything that would be supporting students, which could be also then supporting teachers. So I would, this would satisfy the German immersion part of our mission, because I believe that this person needs to have some German. We need to round out our team with that. This person would have a handle in the German part of the curriculum, so working with the Dean of Data and Compliance on the whole K-8 curriculum, focusing especially on the German curriculum. Still gonna have a hand in student behavior because we need at least 2 people on that. Right now it's Catherine and I on that. Andrew also is in there with special education students on IEPs and such. And then part of our Q-Comp plan and part of our PD plan is to have an instructional coach. It's something that we have outsourced the last 3 years, and this would allow us to keep it in-house. If we had, this is a strong teacher. This person is a strong teacher, and so the ability to instructionally coach is great. So I paired the immersion strategies with the instructional coach. So that could be teachers could opt in process. That could be a rotation. I think that the teachers get to have a little input on how they want that to work. I also see that person helping with interns, and I see Catherine helping with the new teachers. So there's a lot that isn't represented. It's just sort of key responsibilities.
Would that position still be a teaching position at all?
They would not teach, but that person would, so teacher on special assignment is the term that a district uses when a person doesn't have an administrative degree but is a part of admin. And so I consider it an admin level position. Say it.
They probably wouldn't have time to teach.
Yeah.
You know, just teach.
No,
But there would be no
I know
classroom.
traditionally German administrators do also teach, but no, they would not be a classroom teacher.
Okay.
Be a member of the admin team. Are there any questions?
And this all fits within the current budget available.
This all fits within the current budget. I really got to see how the academic team worked this year, and having the task forces and splitting us up and dividing and conquering. I know that there is some rumblings about some of the task forces not getting as much done as maybe people want. And I think that we're still in a learning year. Systematic change doesn't happen overnight. And I think about how many more hours were spent on whole child innovative education and German immersion as a result of the task forces. But we were having a hard time getting people coming to the German immersion task forces after school. This put the work inside the workday, which is what I heard the teachers asking for. And so what I also hear them asking for is, German is our brand. Julie, you said it, Dr. Alcott, you said it, German is our brand. So this helps bring our brand into focus.
Director Cleansing, could you speak a bit about your work with Principal Sunpanic this past year and what you've observed?
Yeah, so one thing that I will say in connection to this is I think it's more possible because of the work that we did this year, where I was able to work on building a lot of capacity in our operational side of the business, the nonprofit, while also attending to help kind of mentoring Elizabeth through the leadership to give her the space to develop capacity on the academic side. Instead of trying to kind of fight the next crisis every day, there was a lot more progressive planning, proactive planning, which I think led to this vision for where the structure can be. Over the year, we've had a lot of conversations about these are the kinds of decisions that leaders get to make, and they're not fun, they're not hard, they're not easy. And I've seen Elizabeth really step up to the plate on making the tough calls, the hard calls, the calls that don't always win you friends, but they definitely move the organization forward. And so that's really what we're here to do, is make sure the mission and the vision are enacted and set this organization up to carry that mission and vision out. And it's not done with one person. It's done with the whole employee base for this nonprofit. And so we have to constantly be finding the assets of the people in the organization and developing those, just as our values state. And Elizabeth took that on with this academic side of the organization. So with us together, kind of getting both of this entire organization prepped and ready to go, I think it's in a good space this year for the academic team to move into these positions, welcome in a new administrator to the Dean of Students position, or the German Immersion Dean of Student Support, and be able to move initiatives and not have to be focused on making sure that we're building systems, because a lot of the systems have been built. Now we get to focus on moving the work forward. So it was really a year of building systems together, but also having lots of conversations about what does it mean to be the executive versus the teacher versus the assistant principal or the principal. Because when you moved from assistant principal to principal, it was a big leap, even just to be looking over the K-8. So the growth has been fast, but I think it's because with Principal Zenfennig, she's a quick learner. I've trained a lot of principals, and some are coachable and some are not. And the ones who are coachable manage situations. They do not create task forces. They do not create objectives. They do not build capacity in other people to take on additional work. And this is something Elizabeth understands how to do that. And I saw it in action, and I got to help frame that work and coach her in that work throughout the year. A year is probably not enough. That's why I welcome a chance to continue to work with her. But tons of growth, and I don't make recommendations of people for positions if I don't think they can handle it. And at the school I'm at right now, there's assistant principals, and I'm like, they're not ready. And so if I'm making the recommendation, it's because I've got the data to back it up. And I'm not gonna put this school in a position where I think they're gonna have somebody who cannot handle the position. I step into schools all the time that have had EDs that have been struggling. That's most of my business over the last 7 years. And I know what it looks like, I know who can't handle it, and Elizabeth is somebody who could handle it. And I know that because I've worked side by side with her for almost an entire year.
I think you mentioned that ED cleansing would be providing some mentoring
Mhm.
to the new ED. Is there a time frame for that? Starting July 1st, go until when, or is there a time frame set for that?
We haven't written a contract out, but that's typically what we've done for past executive directors, is had a coach
Mhm.
hired to work with them throughout the year. And
So
so it could
Throughout a
be,
year?
yeah.
That's the goal?
but it could be renewed, yeah,
Mhm.
if we need more time.
I think Karen's the first executive director that you had. I think this is the first year that we haven't had
Coach.
a coach for the executive
Mhm.
director since I've been on the board.
There was
Yeah.
really a need for one.
Yep.
I mean, I was maybe gonna propose hiring somebody else, but I think Karen will work.
It's off the record.
Other questions or thoughts?
Karen, can you speak to what continuity provides for schools and leaders and staff?
Yeah,
Families.
continuity is very important. I've even talked to, even Andy Nessett mentioned that today. There's relationships built and understandings about how things work. And even when I came in, I still had to rely on existing people to help me understand the systems that exist here. Now, we did have to change some of the systems, but we couldn't change them until, as a new ED, you understand them. One of the things you get with, promoting from within is someone who knows those systems and understands what they are and is not relying on other people to explain those. So the other piece with that is the staff understand what, who they're getting, what that relationship is. They know who to go to and who to, they have those relationships built already. So you don't have to have that moment of time where, people are trying to figure out, they're worried about what's gonna happen to, I don't know this person, if it's a new person. So the stability and continuity is gonna usually provide peace and a trusting, more trust in the organization, a consistency of systems. There were new systems this year, and it was not always easy for some of the staff to accept that there were some new rules, some new systems that we built. And with, I think, Elizabeth coming in, there's an expectation that those are not gonna be dismantled, and there's gonna be a whole new set of rules. Now, we were kind of careful with that. We were trying to move at a pace that we thought the organization could handle. But we also moved at a pace we put systems in place that we thought would stand the test of time, that would help the organization function better and be something that could work into the future.
Can you give examples of the systems you
Yep.
built?
Yeah, one of the things that we did was work on a purchase request process, which sounds like, just a bureaucratic, easy thing, but it was a cultural change for the school that had kind of asked for those things. But it was really important for our budgeting process, for us to know that those purchases had been approved, that the approver knew that the money was already assigned in the budget. Whereas before it was, I don't know if it's in the budget. I mean, internally, there wasn't this, there wasn't a process for knowing if the money had been earmarked yet or not. And so when we created that system, then people had to get used to doing those purchase approvals, where to send them, who to send them to. The fact that we have two signers for each one, we need to train the signers on how to, why are you signing this? What are you looking for? And so that was one of those cultural changes for the building, but it was a system we put in place that really changed things. From the perspective of Elizabeth's part of that is that she had to help with teachers who were used to asking, oh, can I just get this? And then there'd be a verbal, unofficial kind of approval, and she helped with communicating to teachers, oh, we're gonna go through the system and we're gonna help implement it. That's gonna be, she acted as a gatekeeper in a way that helped the whole building get used to it. It's been an incredible help for us with the budgeting process this year, because we were able to go back to those purchase approvals we've been doing since October and be able to build our budget this year based on past practices of how we spend our money and when people tend to want to spend the money and on what. Whereas before it was really just a budget, an object code that could include, with $165,000 in an object code that included 28 teachers' requests. So it's just an example of one of those systems that really did change things in a positive way.
Any examples on the academic side?
Yeah, we use that process to then do the same thing for professional development and for the professional.
Well, that's expenses in general,
Right.
but like other system changes on the academic side.
Yeah, well, I thought the task forces implementation of the task forces into the PD days and the task forces being mission oriented and focused was also one of the newer things that we did this year that really was led by and kind of created by you. I was just supporting it from my end and supporting, we would do some planning together before you would go into the PD. And I'd review some of the materials, but for the most part, you were the one who kind of led the PD days around those mission pieces. If you want to speak more to that, what you put in place there.
Now, systems are more operational. So as far as academic systems, I think we created academic routines and just the way we moved student work maybe differently. What was the question? Systems?
Well, the systems that we put in place on the academic side that your academic team uses to move the work, the mission work forward.
Yeah, and a lot of that was from staff feedback at the end of last year. We just sat with that as an academic team, and I sat with it myself in July and went through all those comments and tried to figure out how we could get some teacher feedback into how the day and how the year runs. I also upped the new teacher mentoring system was different this year. I created a manual for that with a task list for every month that I pushed out then monthly to the resource teachers. Hey, go through these things with your new person.
Also, the teacher evaluation system, it was all created. The instructions for it, the administration of it was created from the principal's office. In fact, I was actually just a participant in that because I helped do some of the observations. But the instructions I had, the form I used was all created as a system by the principal.
Okay, thank you.
Part of it wasn't up to statute until I fixed a few things.
Other questions or comments?
I have one. What do you hope to see from this new administrator? What do you expect?
I think that person is a strong teacher, and so that person is going to lead through example. The person is going to be able to hopefully be supportive when teachers are struggling with student behavior, workload, new curriculum, science standards, be able to be a thought partner, to be able to be solution oriented and help brainstorm. I see that person as being a German speaker, and we're going to add immersion strategies with Dr. Amy Young next year as part of our PD. And so implementing strategies, being able to co-teach to learn strategies, things like that. You know, you can go in and do you can co-teach a lesson, or you can go in and watch a lesson. And to be able to, so the data and compliance is gonna help us with the scope and sequence of the curriculum K-8. But my vision then is that the German curriculum would be scoped and sequenced by that position. So it's a little bit operational and a little bit academic. A person has to have a handle on probably DAFRAM and their plan, or ACTFL proficiencies and how that combines with the Common European Framework, and which one do we want to kind of stick with. Has to have a handle on like second language acquisition.
What kind of support would that new position have to bring them into, you know, that kind of administrative role versus a teaching role? I know you said that they would be a strong teacher and that you see that in the building, but what, you know, is there any sort of education or special support that they would get to make sure that they can excel in that role?
Yeah, there's at least 3 different things that come to mind. One is that person qualifies as an administrator, so they're entitled to an MDE coach, just like Dr. Liz Vaught has been for me the last 2 years. So we would get that person hooked up. It's a lifeline. It's a one-on-one client, patient, attorney, privilege. Like they don't need to. It's not part of an evaluation. They get to just work with that person on their own terms. That's something that I would have definitely wanted for myself. Right, the support from 4 years ago. And so one thing I added this year when Catherine started was she and I meet for half an hour every day. We have since the beginning of the year, every day from 8:30 to 9 o'clock. And sometimes we have emergencies and we miss it, but more than not, and we have an agenda that we work through together. We discuss problems, we discuss students. She brings things to me, we problem solve together. So I would do the same thing. And it would at one point then the handoff would be to Catherine. Then Catherine gets to do that for the new person too. She's ready for a lot of these things. She's ready to impart her knowledge. And then as an academic team, this team is strong. This team brainstorms together. We do a lot of things together. We divide and conquer when we need to, but we also are the best. We just bounce bounce ideas off of each other very often. So I feel like that team's supportive. So those 2 things.
Yeah, there's also room in the budget for PD if they wanted to go get some of the immersion and opportunity or professional development that's available, that there's an opportunity to access in the area.
MDE's got a lot of free things, like how to do teacher evaluation and things like that. If this person decides that they are interested in pursuing an administrative license, I think that's something I would help them with. While I've been here, I've mentored 3 people for their K-12, their Minnesota K-12 license. 3. And so that's something that I really enjoy that. It's teaching. I like to teach. Still a teacher.
There may be some non-degree credentials that they might want to seek as well.
I have a question. It seems that there has been a lot of clarity and intentional development among the academic team. And I'm just wondering, it's a big job. How have you seen it grow and change in ways that share responsibilities that help us get further faster in our strategic plan and our goals and our day-to-day work? I think you just kind of alluded to it, but I'd be curious to hear you kind of expand on how that has maybe changed over the past year, past 18 months.
How has the academic team specifically changed?
How has the duty sharing?
Yeah,
It seems like
I
there's,
think that Elizabeth needed to realize that she doesn't have to do everything. So that was a big part of my growth this year, was trusting. and working with people close enough to be able to trust. I've had a new boss I've had 3 new bosses, and so trust, we're working on that. And so I realized that I needed to trust my team to do things, and then little by little, that came back to me in spades. And I now recognize that Esther Noy, who I've known for a long time, is just incredibly talented. But I know that she's ready to take on a whole lot more. She's such a learner. It's one of her traits, one of her, whatever those things are called. It's her strengths. She's a learner too. We're all actually learners, I think. And so we like to learn from each other. We like to, we're nerdy. We're sharing articles on Friday nights and things like that. So I think that we just trusted each other. Catherine and I can anticipate each other's sort of next move now. It's a dance. She and I are a we. And that just is a lot of relationship building. We started off doing these the task force agendas together. And I kind of had a vision. And then by the end, it was just, hey, do you have your agenda? Great, you got your focus. And then those are just kind of making themselves now.
Well, this whole thing turned more into an interview process now, but
I mean, I was gonna propose that we have the executive committee do a formal interview
yeah, I know.
before we make a decision. We could just do it now.
No. I was just asking, what vision do you have for the school for the next 5-10 years?
This is a great question. I think that my letter of interest was a part of my materials, and I had a mini vision for each of the 4 parts that are part of the strategic plan. Can I pull it up to reference it? I just sent DBEI milestones to Julie today because I have a vision on where we're going with that after we got our student belonging results back. 86% of our students are feeling that they belong. Some of the numbers about things like I have a trusted adult at this school are really low. And so we've got our work cut out for us there, and I've got some milestones in mind. Things like upping the ante on a diversity club and calling it more Vielfalt, diversity, and having that connected to the current student school board one, maybe having a student representative then be able to sit on that committee. Same with maybe student council sitting on something, and just getting students more buy-in to their school and having more say is one of the things. I think that increasing diversity at our school is rooted in having a strong academic program. Kids of color parents of kids of color, they want strong academics. They want strong, I've heard that even from the parents here at the school. And so how do we increase academics? How do we raise MCA scores? That is strong instruction. So I've got a plan for how we increase instruction, and it's tied to immersion as well. Having a set of strategies that we are using and that the teachers are trained on, and then we are seeing consistently. Teaching is an art, but it's a science, and there's best practice in the science. And so, too often I go into a teacher evaluation and I'm just seeing the big things that I think we could so easily add to get a bigger bang for our buck. And so I would add those things in. So that was the innovative teaching and learning, is just adding some really strong strategies, continuing to work with Dr. Amy Young on the immersion plan and the immersion concept. We seem to have a identity crisis. Are we a German school? Are we an American school? Well, we're a German American school. We have both of those in our title. And securing a language allocation plan, I think, is a really important part of that, so that we don't have any questions. This is what we do. In kindergarten, we're 100% German. That's what we do. There is no need for English because we're doing all these other strategies. And then we add English in third grade, et cetera. So just securing that is part of the innovative teaching and learning part. School cultural engagement. I referenced that our staff survey had some good feedback that people were feeling supported. And I think that's because I'm hoping it's because teachers feel that they were heard. I did a lot of work on changing meeting times and working the work into the workday. And so I will do another survey at the end of the year and get more feedback and make more changes based on what teachers are wanting. I was a teacher for 20 years. I know it's a lot of work. I know what the workload is. And I'm happy to brainstorm and be solution oriented on how to make that more manageable. I do get worried about who is going to teach in the future. We can't burn out the teachers. For financial stability, I have some ideas on raising revenue in fee-based activities, concession stands. Don't count the hot dog out. You know, you can raise a lot of funds for that. I just paid $15 to see a Central volleyball game tonight. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a student pass and then charging parents for a volleyball game. I think we could do some student fees, sell them at the school store. We could figure it out. Facility rentals as potential revenue streams. We started that work. I just continue that work with Kim. Got some fun fundraising ideas. We even have a slogan that I'd like to try. That was the 4, right? That's my vision. I used the 2025 vision as the basis for the task forces. So if you go to the vision, there's that narrative piece. And it says, like, in 2025, the walls speak German. And I used that and I backwards designed. And everybody in those task forces read that vision. How do we get here? What are we missing? What are we needing? And so I think that as a part of the school board, we would do that together. We would create that next vision and backwards design from there. What does the school look like in 2030? Well, we have a consistent enrollment. We have teacher retention is no longer a problem. We've figured out, how to appreciate our international staff. Immersion strategies are secure and nobody doesn't know how to use them. Everybody knows how to use them. New teachers feel welcomed and supported and continue to stay. I think those things.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I feel like I've only begun to think about it, but got a lot of good ideas. There's a lot of good ideas in audience and teachers as well.
Well, and I'd argue that the ideas you have, you put into action in the work that you do, the leadership you do. So
I'm pretty action oriented.
you're an activator.
I'm an activator. Yeah.
Mhm.
Dr. Alcatraz is too.
Other questions or comments?
Okay, make a motion to modify the agenda to add a
Sure,
10-minute recess.
sure. You want to
And then-
recess right now?
What?
You want to recess right now?
Come back at 8. Give us all 10 minutes to think, process, continue discussion, and go from there.
I can eat my banana.
You can eat your banana.
I brought some snacks.
Okay. We'll take a 10-minute recess, 13 minutes. We'll be back at 8.
That's why.
Emily, should I do this?
Oh, yeah. Want to? Yeah. It is.
All right, I'm doing a sound check. Can you guys hear me online? I'll take a thumbs up if you can hear me online.
Yes.
Yay, okay, thank you very much.
I thought you said something else.
All right, it is 8:02 and I'm calling this meeting back to order. Sorry, we get snacks and then we start chatting and it's hard to get everyone back. And thank you for bringing snacks, Lori. Okay. Further thoughts? People want to share? Questions?
I have a question that's probably for everybody, board, Elizabeth and Karen. So if we were to move forward with Elizabeth and a one-year contract, there has been some obvious pushback on that. How do we address that as a community to ensure that we can come together and move forward? Where does that responsibility land? Does it land with the board? You know, I think we've done everything we can, laying out like with the letter that you read at the beginning to try to outline our thought process and, you know, as much as we can legally, publicly share about what has, you know, kind of brought us to this point right now. But what outside of that can we do?
It's a good question.
I think ultimately it's a joint responsibility for us to be clear and candid in our communication and frequent. I think there's probably some team building that we could do, you know, in June, and in August. And ultimately it's a 1-year contract, so performance will be, I think what I keep coming back to too is what's the alternative? Like who's filling in?
Yeah.
And so part of the communication is if the decision's not to move with Elizabeth, and maybe we have to sort that out a little bit to understand our communication path, but what is the plan? Because the external search, there's not enough time. There could be an external posting, but you still are going to have someone brand new who would need to be trained in by somebody.
Yeah, and I guess I'm also talking about like some of the transparency questions or, you know, some of the things that were said in letters or statements to the board about transparency with everything and how do we address that? Because I understand that those people are coming from a place of love and everything for the community and wanting what's best,
Yeah.
as we all are. But we are fortunate or unfortunate enough to, you know all the like the legal reasons about how transparent we can be. You know, I'm thinking about things like how we can't legally show every applicant we were to get if we did an external source. So there is not a transparency there that can happen even. So I don't know if there's like a letter to the community that needs to be sent out to address those kind of things. I want it to just not be like a, hey, this is what we're doing, be good with it. I want everybody to understand, you know, all the work that many people have done for this decision, for every decision that the board does.
And I think in that it has to go beyond the what is the alternative. I don't think you're gonna take very many people on your journey with that kind of message.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I think there's also a very practical phenomenon here that is part of the communication. It's not necessarily a settling for, it's a, if we're gonna explore other options, I wanna understand from all the feedback coming in, what are the problem solving suggestions that are actually workable. But you're right, it's not necessarily the message. And yeah. But I do think the message is why this decision was made, that in the proactive sense of all the different strengths that this person brings. So that's the content of the message that I would put in. And we've done some of that, but I think we would need to lay it out in a strategic manner of what we know these strengths will mean for TCGIS in 2 years and 3 years and 4 years and 5 years. That it's not just a strength in June of 2024, but it's a strength that's going to carry Twin Cities German immersion forward into a new future. One of the things I learned today is there a partnership program that you helped build with German schools? Katarina mentioned it, so I just wondered.
The German American Partnership Program.
Yeah,
That was that I did as a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did the capstone program that I did for 20 years
was that something you created or built?
at that school.
What was it? I couldn't hear.
Oh, it's just a two-way exchange similar to our capstone that's here.
I guess that had an impact on me, and it's something that we might want to put in as historical, experience that Elizabeth has not just in name and in credentials achieved, German American education, but I think the community needs to get to know some of the things that she's done that they might not be aware of. And one of them is this German American Partnership exchange program that she created at this other school that was really impressive to our director of international programs here at our German immersion school.
I agree. I think those
Yeah.
achievements should certainly be communicated, but also we need to find a way to address the concerns. And that's why I was asking earlier if those concerns, areas of improvement, whatever you want to call it, or opportunities can be listed somewhere or somewhere, and this is the things we'd like to see,
Mhm.
and
In
the
a
board would like to
development.
see.
In a
And
development plan.
Yes.
Mhm.
And that can be a public document that we not only approve here at the board level in June, but can also be circulated amongst different stakeholder groups so that they can see it and know it.
Yep.
I would argue that I don't want to see it done in June.
You want it done in July or August?
Yeah, maybe August. I think June would probably be too soon. It's also it's been a long couple of weeks and I don't want it to be another long couple of weeks. And I'm very excited about our 2 new board members and would value their input on something like that as well.
Sure, that makes sense. But would it be enough to, address transparency and concerns if we waited, past June, if we didn't have some skeleton of there will be a development plan around these objectives that will be part of this offer? I think at least that framework would need to be part of the June communication.
Yeah, maybe we don't have to have everything listed out or laid out or anything or have that plan in place. I think as a board, acknowledging all the input that we have taken, all the input that we've received into consideration. And beyond that, I think we all know how much work we all put into everything here. I think a lot of people in the community know that, maybe not everybody does. There's also parts of things like with the transparency issues and everything that we can't disclose everything, nor should we. I don't know where I'm going with that. I guess then if anybody really wants to know everything, they're more than welcome to run for the board.
Well,
That's why I did.
I agree.
I mean, that's why I did.
I also think we have to be realistic in terms of setting our expectations as a board and the community. We cannot expect one person to solve every problem that our school faces, that our community faces. We all own that. Your first part of that question. We all own it. We all own embracing our values and living out our values. And we owe it to our administration, to our teachers, to our students to proceed in ways that honor our values and live out our values. And that's on all of us, not just an executive director, not just principal. So I think that is how I would answer your question.
And there's a lot of ways in which this plan does honor the strategic plan, the milestones and the values that were read today that we could reference in the communication and share out. And with respect to the transparency issues, I had a great conversation with Joe McMahon about parent council and talking to parent council and staff council about doing some training so that we can help them know some of the limitations, but then how to work with those limitations to really get the feedback that they seek, and very open to really making sure that we move forward in ways that honor our values and also are compliant and fair. But maybe we do some of the communication by going to those councils ourselves and sharing that communication so it gets done in a way that, and the questions get answered in a way that we can do that. So I put that in the plan.
What?
So you're not gonna get a break.
No.
Keep going.
All right.
Any other questions or thoughts? How's the board feeling about the speed of the decision? I know that's something the community brought up, thinking it seems really fast to make a decision of the next executive director. It's just another aspect we'll have to address.
I think we have to work within the time that we're given. And I don't think that means settling. I think that means being realistic about what the parameters are that we have to work in. And as a board, we, with every decision, hold multiple things to be true at the same time. And I do not think we have rushed. I think we've been deliberate. I think we have been thoughtful. And the timing is what it is in terms of from when we learned of Karen's resignation to the time that we have to fill that position. And I think we have taken our time to have those thoughtful conversations and to vet the possibilities with the feedback that we've received.
All right, would we like to entertain a motion tonight? I'll make a motion to offer Elizabeth Senfenig a one-year contract as executive director starting July 1st, 2024, Is there anything else I need to add? That's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Hartman. Discussion on the motion to offer Elizabeth Senfenig a one-year contract as the executive director.
Would that be an interim contract, interim position, or would that be a full position contract?
I think we would just go with full executive director.
What would be the difference?
No, it's just I think to the outside probably would give the impression that it's more final than we are still, evaluating things on an ongoing basis.
I think the difference is, I mean, we're always evaluating things on an
Yeah.
ongoing basis. That's our job. I think the difference between an interim and non-interim would be currently actively seeking someone else for the role. If we were to say it's interim, we would be saying that we're actively seeking someone else for the role.
But we didn't do that when Karen wasn't interim. We didn't actively seek somebody then.
We were actively.
Actually.
We were.
Well,
Yeah, when we
Yeah.
removed the interim, that's when we stopped actively
Yeah.
looking for somebody else.
I think too, you said there was a suggestion or recommendation from the exec committee to have a mid-year review. Where at that point, if things were not going well, you can start the search process at that time and the timing would be better.
Correct. Yep.
yeah, that's what.
And which
And
is-
that's part of our regular process is
Yeah.
to do a mid-year review.
That's what you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
I think executive director without the interim title will give the organization a chance and Elizabeth a chance to really enter that position, her leadership as if this could be long term. Let's get to work. Let's get started, as interim kind of connotes more about, okay, we'll wait this out until the real person is here. So the effect on the organizational culture can be helpful, especially if you're not really gonna probably seek someone until you know mid-year that things aren't going well. And it has the same contractual impact to do it for a year, regardless of the title.
So
Further
would the intention,
discussion?
I'm sorry, would the intention be then to go on a one-year basis all the time after that? Or would you then
I think the board,
suggest to enter into a long-term agreement?
We'll evaluate,
Based on that.
we'll evaluate that in January, February, as we do every year.
the board can decide.
At that time?
The longest that we recommend though is 3 years after talking with our lawyer about it.
Mhm.
Further discussion?
Oh, there's so much that goes into this decision. And I really am trying to formulate a statement on why I will be voting yes, but I'm really worried I'm gonna leave something out. Because I didn't pre-formulate one like I probably should have. But I think taking into consideration the very limited amount of applications we have received for the past 2 searches, how those searches turned out, knowing how difficult it is for somebody to join this community and get up to speed at a time when our school really needs leadership. I think it very much makes sense to bring someone on that's already here. Knowing Elizabeth for the past 4 or so years, there's a lot of things that I could say, but I think one thing in particular that really stands out to me and is something that I very much look for in people is a willingness to learn and grow. And I think you've demonstrated that a lot since we interviewed you in 2001. So as long as you
21.
are, yeah, 2021. So as long as that continues to happen, I have confidence in my vote. That would be yes.
I will echo some of that. I think that we had, I think Principal Zenpenig was a very strong candidate the last time she offered to take this position. And maybe a little green and has had an opportunity to grow and to get a lot more experience in the role and the organization. And I think we would be hard pressed to find a similarly competitive and qualified person, and definitely wouldn't find somebody who knows the school and knows the way the school works and the culture and what we've been through and where we're going and how things have really turned around, I think, in the last year, with a lot of internal improvements. And yeah, there's always going to be some friction and static and things that can be better. But I think that the community will really benefit from not having another disruption, which I think the likely outcome of an external search would be we get some candidates, maybe in the short term, probably in the longer term. We take a look at them and probably decide that we had a great candidate to start with. But in any case, we spend a lot of time, probably some money, seeing if we can find something better. It's like, trying on a pair of pants and then saying, these are great pants, and then trying on 20 more pairs of pants and going, yeah, no, it was the first pair of pants, right? So that's where I am.
It's a great
It's all about
analogy.
the pants. It's scary to say, yes, this is the pair of pants, right? Or the yes to the dress people who, yes, I've seen them. Try the first one, they love it, and then they try on 20 more and they drive their family crazy.
Yeah, I'll also add to that, like with an external search or bringing somebody external in, you never know how that person's going to work
An outsider.
out. With this, we know exactly what we're getting, and we know how to play to those strengths and to any opportunities that may exist. And I think that's the best path forward for the school right now.
I would like to also vote for yes, especially since we have this 1-year contract structure and ED cleansing mentoring Elizabeth for a while, and for the transition and to make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible at this time. Even though there was some concerns, I think that we can address them. And but in general, I would like to give my appreciation to the executive team for all the diligent work you've done on this. So I think that's really helpful.
Thanks.
I think we'd also be remiss not to note the letters of recommendation that are robust in the board packet. And I think that speaks really in a compelling way to what Elizabeth brings to this school and her commitment for continuing a lot of the growth and the advancement that's happened this year. And I am excited for our school to be able to have that continuity and to continue to make strides in big and small ways. So I would also be a yes vote.
One thing I love about Elizabeth's passion for German immersion education is it's not just for German immersion education, it's for this school. And that's really hard to go out and find externally, to find someone who loves the school as much as this community does. And that comes out through and through.
How I've come to my decision, and everybody who knows me, I'm not a very jubilant person. Is I've thought a lot about this decision in the last weeks. And I tried to look at things very objectively, and weighing pros and cons. That's just how my brain works. And weighing these kinds of sides, and really being invested in this school and this community, for my, I don't know, personally and professionally. And being a board member for 3 years now, learned a lot about this community. And I think it's the right decision moving forward to vote yes on this. With all the things that are in place to make sure that this stays continues to be a successful place.
Thanks for sharing. I will add that the board is not an easy boss.
Partially because it's like 9 bosses,
Yes. But this board really values the feedback culture, and provides feedback. We don't shy away from that. But we also offer support. So challenge and support.
Yeah, somebody said earlier I didn't have a coach, but I kind of did have a lot of coaches right here. That was okay. That's great.
Director Albers, would you like to share any thoughts?
I don't have any other thoughts per se to add. I think it's been well articulated tonight. I think that within my time here, it is nice to grow your own. I think that's a helpful thing to do. I think that we've all benefited from the stability that has come with Elizabeth being in not only the principal role, but also in the dean role, and with Karen helping mentor, and knowing that the board is, like you said, a tough boss, but also one that's willing to support a lot along the way. I foresee things going smoothly in the transition period.
Great, thanks for sharing. Other thoughts? Hearing none, all those in favor, did you want to say something?
It was a snide comment.
Okay.
It's not a value.
Hearing no other comments. All those in favor of offering Principal Senfenig a 1-year contract as our executive director, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really didn't expect this, so I'm actually really surprised. My husband is on the call and he's probably texting me right now, and I'm thinking about what Lori said, and I bought the first wedding dress I tried on. Because that's kind of the person I am. If I find it and it fits and I like it, I don't need to look other places. It's how I chose my husband as well. And so
You said he was on the call?
and he knows that the decision that I made 5 years ago when I chose to leave my tenured position. I taught at Richfield High School for 20 years. And I sat on that decision for a really long time before the pandemic had hit. So it was a really big deal. And I'm all in. When I make a decision, I'm all in. I celebrated my 20th anniversary with my beautiful husband because I'm all in. I chose to leave that school here because I'm all in. I'm all in for TCGIS. And so thank you for giving me this opportunity. I will prove my worth and I will stay forever.
Thank you. All right, with that, our meeting is adjourned at 8:32. Thank you all for attending
early.
online.
This is like Emily meeting.
Appreciate your engagement.
Yes.